I'm what they call a contactee or abductee, and I've had direct physical contact with beings that are from another world. But it has always been about a spiritual side and an insightful side, and we're starting to see more of that information come forward. Once you know the truth about something, you can't turn away from it. You can't try to lie your way out of it. It is the truth. And so they literally downloaded me with information about how everything works. And it focused on physics, the physics of the world itself, of a human being, of nature, of the earth, of the planets, of the universe, the solar system, in the interdimensional worlds. They explained to me how everything works. And that was a majority of what they were talking with me about. And it's very interesting because I went from not having any of that information to understanding the way life it fits together overnight. What I see, and then also from my experience, is that abductees and contactees have this understanding of how things, quote, fit together, and how the physics is parallel, which, in other words, science is sort of understood by human beings everywhere. So I didn't just outright believe it, even for myself. I had to go and find the proof that yes, because if I couldn't believe me, and I'm the one that experienced it, I cannot turn around and expect someone else to believe me just like that. The only thing that I would ask is to really take the time to know my history, to know what I do in the world, who I am, my character, my passion, and my drive in life. And ask yourself, would a woman doing all of these things, what would be the point of coming out with such a fantastical story?
Hey everyone, thank you for watching our episode today, our interview with Miriam Delicado, author of Blue Star Fulfilling Prophecy. What we're doing today is we're having a giveaway for this hard copy of her book, and the details is that you have to follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Cosmic Convergence Channel, which you're watching right now, and also to sign up for Miriam Delicado's newsletter. All you need to do is go ahead and, of course, click the subscribed button to our Cosmic Convergence channel, which you are watching right now. Our address is at Cosmic Convergence Channel, youtube.com. And the next thing you do is go ahead and take a screenshot of that, and then head over to Miriam Delicado's website, bluestarprophecy.com. And what you'll see is a tab there that says sign up to ask Miriam a question. You also have here for sign up. Let's go ahead and click on sign up to ask Miriam a question. Okay. And then that'll give you a subscription to Miriam's newsletter. Go ahead and sign up for the subscription to her newsletter, which will then take you to whatever email address that you use. Then you'll see this here from Miriam's website. And it'll also give you a free book download of the same. It's a PDF copy of the exact hard copy that we're doing for the giveaway. So even if you don't win, you can still have a free PDF. And thank you for that very much, Miriam. We all appreciate that. Screenshot that, okay? Screenshot this, and then send both screenshots to cosmicgiveaway@gmail.com. And that's it. It's that simple. If you're already a subscriber to our channel, just go ahead and just take a screenshot already that you say that you're subscribed, that you've signed up for Miriam's newsletter, and then just take both those screenshots. Again, you want to send it to cosmicgiveaway@gmail.com. Good luck in getting your copy of Blue Star Fulfilling Prophecy. Great book. Thank you so much for writing it, Miriam. And we're really honored to be able to have this giveaway and to do the interview. And I hope that everybody enjoys it. Thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you. Have fun. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast. I'm thrilled to introduce our special guest, Miriam Delicado. Miriam is an ET contactee and author of Blue Star Fulfilling Prophecy. She's here to share her incredible experiences and insights into extraterrestrial contact. I'm also joined by my fellow co-hosts, John and Daniel. Welcome to the podcast, Miriam. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here with the 3 of you. Before we even get into anything, I want to let your listeners know that the 3 of you have been extraordinarily focused on trying to get a lot of information to the public. The way that you've interacted with me makes that really, really clear, and I really appreciate it, and that's why I said yes to come onto your program, because we have to stop holding back certain types of information. I think there's been a lot of conversation out there in the public about the more scientific side of UAPs and UFOs, but it has always been about a spiritual side, and an insightful side, and we're starting to see more of that information come forward. So I'm looking forward to sort of sharing with your audience my story, and then also get into some really great conversation about what's going on.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. To start that off, for people that don't know you, where did this all begin for you? And you can start wherever you feel comfortable.
I always have to pause when people ask me about my story because it's been so extensive. Yeah, but essentially, I'm what they call a contactee or abductee, and I've had direct physical contact with beings that are from another world. How that came about was when I was 22 years old, and I'm 58 at the moment. When I was 22 years old, I was on a highway in northern British Columbia, Canada, and with some 3 other adults and a child in a car. And just for time's sake, just to, sort of encapsulate the story as much as possible, because there's a lot of detail to it. I We were in this car driving down the highway, and on the left-hand side of the road, I was led to a very large UFO by short, grayish type beings, with round black eyes. They were about 4 feet tall. And this experience was a physical experience. It was not any sort of dreams or visions or anything like that. It was an event that changed my life and put me on a trajectory and a path that there is no way that I could ever walk away from it again, because once you know the truth about something, you can't turn away from it. You can't try to lie your way out of it. It is the truth. And so this experience that I had dramatically shifted and changed my life, because I went from having no education, meaning I have a grade 7 completed education. I share that piece of information because it's really important. Um, the fact that I didn't have a formal education and I did not have access to certain information growing up, okay, made it so that when I did have this experience, they literally downloaded me with information about how everything works. And it focused on physics, the physics of the world itself, of a human being, of nature, of the earth, of the planets, of the universe, the solar system, in the interdimensional worlds. They explained to me how everything works. And that was a majority of what they were talking with me about. And it's very interesting because I went from not having any of that information to understanding the way life it fits together overnight. And I went a bit crazy after the experience. I just had a conversation with an old friend the other day, and we were talking about that. And I said, "Yeah, I kind of lost my mind a little," because you kind of have to, I mean, you have to process that.
Right.
And it's been 36 years, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm still processing it, because the amount of information was so big. And when people say to me, "What did they tell you? I want to know. Tell me right now." I'm like, "Listen, it doesn't work that way." I can't there's nothing that I could physically say to someone in order for them to understand this information in an interview, in an hour, in a written letter. It doesn't work that way. The secret to this, the real information on this is how does it all fit together? And what I see, and then also from my experience, is that abductees and contactees have this understanding of how things, quote, fit together and how the physics is parallel, which, in other words, science is parallel to spirituality, which is parallel to the extraterrestrials, and then parallel to even, let's say, some of the religions and ancient beliefs. Everything has this through line where all of the information that these beings are gifting the world, it comes into play at times of chaos and at times of transition when there is a consciousness rising. And what that means is the consciousness of human beings is expanding, it's opening up, it's allowing for more information to be sort of understood by human beings everywhere. So my real story is about having extraterrestrial contact on the highway, but from that experience, I realized that I had contact my whole life, because they gave me back my memories. They had sort of wiped my mind and gave me back memories. And it's a fascinating story because I didn't just outright believe it, even for myself. I had to go and find the proof that yes, I did see them when I was about 4 or 5. Yes, I saw them when I was 16. Yes, I saw them when I was, I don't even know how old, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. I saw them when I was 22. I had to go out and find my own proof to save my own sanity. And so when people say that I'm making up a story, I'm like, "Okay, I fully respect and honor anyone who says that to me." Because if I couldn't believe me and I'm the one that experienced it, I cannot turn around and expect someone else to believe me just like that. The only thing that I would ask is to really take the time to know my history, to know what I do in the world, who I am, my character, my passion, and my drive in life, and ask yourself, would a woman doing all of these things, what would be the point of coming out with such a fantastical story? So it's a huge story, as you know, guys. So
And I think that what adds validity to all of that is also the other experiencers like yourself who are sharing a lot of the same information about what they're telling us and what we need to pay attention to, especially now in these tumultuous times. And I think that's very key and important. And it's good to know that there are more people paying attention and there are more audiences for this now because, they're seeing things in our skies. We have Congress talking about this and even mentioning interdimensional beings on the news, saying that directly to us and taking it seriously. And even saying that, yeah, we are aware there has been a cover up to this and they're trying to prevent us from accessing this information. So it's real, so I think that's important.
I would
Uh,
address what it is that you just said because it's an extremely important point that you made, and that is that, when we're talking about what's happening in the world in terms of releasing information and understanding what's happening, I had this experience 36 years ago, and when I went to people trying to get some sort of support, emotionally, because it was overwhelming, and trying to find other people like myself who had had these kind of experiences, what I found was that even saying the word extraterrestrial, I would say, "I saw extraterrestrials." And someone would look at me and they would say, "What is that?" They literally did not know what the definition of an extraterrestrial was. And if I said alien, they literally did not understand what it was that I was saying. So I want to make that really a big point, how far humanity as a whole has come. So when people are demanding this quote disclosure, hey, we are in it. We are happening, man. We are
Oh
in it,
yeah.
coming. We are, doing, we're here. We're going towards disclosure. So there's been a massive shift and change, and that's going to only continue to grow and grow. So thank you.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's we talked about this pre-show, and I was born in 72 again. I mean, you didn't really hear anything about it, and abductees and contactees and experiencers were just, if you did hear anything about it, they were just labeled as nut jobs,
Mhm,
that just, had a wild imagination or were off their medicine or whatever have you. Fumes from the swamp or something. Doesn't matter what excuse. And now it's pretty much peppered everywhere. And so we've made a big leap since then. Huge. It's not just an X-Files show. It's not just, like I grew up on Leonard Nimoy and In Search of and stuff like that, or some PBS special. It's again, as Christian said, it's literally, which I don't use that term a lot, literally people talking in front of Congress about this.
mhm,
And that's a huge step. And I mean, I agree, disclosure, please, come on, let's go. It's been too long. But a lot of people are still, this is like, there's people out there where today is the very first day this has entered their consciousness. And to me, that's a win because we need to open that consciousness more and more for humanity. So
mhm,
everyone that becomes conscious about it, it helps spread it. And I'm not talking about spreading a virus of hate and fear and everything else. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about power. It's about getting to the truth and helping the human species go to that next level, which frankly we've deserved to be at for a very long time internally. One thing I wanted to touch before I pass it on, it's not so much of a question. It's more of a comment because what you said earlier in the introduction is very important. You had these experiences with these extraterrestrial beings, the craft, and everything else. And afterwards, you did your own internal searching to find out, did this really happen to me? Or, was it my vivid imagination, And I think that a lot of people, whether they're skeptics or they just never heard of this subject before, which is again a little crazy to me itself, think that, oh, the experiencer, the contactee just has that vivid imagination and they just believe it and they don't try to do their own investigation, internal and external investigation to find out, did this really happen to me? I mean, you're involved right now with a panel of experiencers and contactees, and every one of us, we're a small sample, every one of us has looked at what we've experienced and said, did that really happen? And make those lists of, was it this or did it truly happen? Was it this or did it? And we've checked off the boxes, and whatever side it falls on is the side that we're going to say, yes, okay. And it just so happened that we experienced all of those things.
mhm,
So it's kind of a misnomer that experiencers and contactees are just, high or whatever else have you. No, they're very conscious, responsible people, whether it be a farmer or whether it be someone like David Grush or it's be someone like yourself, Miriam, that have done the investigation on a personal level, not waited for somebody to tell them what they experienced or did not experience. They
right.
did the research on their own. And that's very important. I'm glad you brought that up. And I think that that's a banner that all experiencers should be able to carry with them as they go forth in the world and talk about their experiences. So, thank you for providing the banner to those that may be a little bit, that are watching this right now, that may be a little bit apprehensive about coming out. I think it's important. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. I think it's it, well, it is not. It is actually a very important point for the entire conversation because we have to show our we have to show ourselves the truth first. And until we do that, it will always be a question in our mind, and it's one of the reasons why I ask people to really think before going to someone else to say, "Tell me what my life is." Because if someone tells you, it's always gonna be external. Even if it's the truth, you're never going to fully accept it because you're gonna in the somewhere there, it's gonna say, "I did not come up with that, someone else did." So it's really important that physically, I went out and tried to find people, and information that verified what happened, and I found that. And then I also did my internal questioning because we have to do that in anything that we're doing in life, and we have to find that inner compass, and this is the entire conversation. This is what we're talking about. This is disclosure. Who we are, what we are, and why we're here. So, Christian, you had another question. I can't wait to hear it.
Oh no, yeah, that was perfect, and I completely agree with both of you guys, and I think it's true. And as for my other question, I wanted to ask because this ties into a lot of things, and to our history, humanity's history, Hopi prophecy, and how the Hopi people refer to this, and how the beings were explaining this to you as well as the worlds, the different worlds that came before. And when I say worlds, for people that don't understand this, another term could be paradigm or era of humanity before, where we had a certain level of knowledge, got to a certain point, but things didn't quite work out so well for us, and we got wiped out somehow, natural disaster, what have you. And that's when you start going into the realms like Atlantis and that stuff. But it makes sense. So I was wondering, for people who don't understand, if you could elaborate on that, explain that, or talk about that a little bit.
So again, this was 1988 that this massive information was shared. One of the things that they explained to me was about the history of the Earth itself, the millions of years, the history, maybe even billions, I don't know. But the actual history of, let's say, terraforming, creating Earth itself and human life. And the way they explained it, these beings, tall, blonde haired, blue eyed extraterrestrials, about 7, 8 feet tall. Um, People always ask me what they look like. They had almost translucent skin, such strange skin. Every time I think about it, I can actually see their skin. Huge, massive, massive, massive blue eyes. And so these beings told me that in the beginning, the earth was formed and life was brought to the earth. And these beings that I had contact with, I give them many names, one of them being the great ancestors, because they helped to seed the planet with life. So they watched over the earth for millions of years and nothing substantial happened. That was the first world, as it was explained to me by the beings. This is an important point. Then they said there was the second world. And in the second world, they gave more form. They gave animals and different types of life to the planet. And then they waited to see if that life would, quote, evolve and become conscious. And it did not. So they wiped it out. Something happened, natural disaster, cleaned the planet, clean slate. I do believe that I'm looking at, if I look at that time, it sounds like dinosaurs, when during the time of the dinosaurs. Then they said there was the third world. And in this world, they gave life to human beings in their own, that looked similar to them. They created us. And I know a lot of people, very religious people, are going to go crazy and say that's the devil and everything else, but please bear with me. And listen to the stories that I share and the things that I share before passing judgment, because things are not always as they appear to be. Because I still believe in God, a creator. I still believe that there are divine beings out there that are here to guide us and help and watch over humanity. Just to make that point clear. So in this third world, what happened was there was a lot, the minds of the humans, that were on the planet at the time had access to vast amounts of information that connected to these parallel dimensions and worlds, and access to the universal secrets almost of who and what we are, where we're from, and all of those physics, the physics of life. And it started being, this is what they said. They said there were some people that were using this information in a very negative way, and they were doing experimentations. They started doing experimentations on human beings. They started modifying them, which is what we're doing now. They started modifying nature, which is what we're doing now. They started to mess with the waters, which is what we're doing now. They started messing with the air, which is what we're doing now, all of these things. And so there was this danger that was coming to that was disrupting the natural flow of the evolution of life in the third world. And there were also technologies at that time. That's the one big separation between what we're going through now and what we went through back then. There was these technologies that were so dangerous that it could literally harm all life in all dimensions and in all realms all at the same time. And I believe that the Hadron Collider is one of these pieces of technology that we have here on the Earth. Now, the beings from 1988 said that because of the danger of everything that was happening on the Earth, some kind of cataclysm came and wiped out the Earth. But there were people on the planet that were living in a very good way, and they were following sort of the spiritual path, and there were pockets of them all over the world. So the ETs picked them up, took them off planet, underground, great big huge mother crafts, kept them there until the Earth healed, and then brought them back. This is what I was told. That was the third world. And I understood that these people that were taken off were indigenous people and ancient culture people. They were the knowledge keepers of the world from that time. And then when they brought them back, this was the fourth world, and this is the world that we are currently living in. And they told me information, they gave me information about where we were back then in 88, and then what was gonna be happening over time. And a lot of the things that they shared with me have come to pass. And what what they said, okay, was really crazy. Let's just say it. I mean, here I am in 1988, a 22-year-old girl getting all this information, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's right? Nobody to talk to, no one to go to, no one to have that conversation with, didn't know where to go, and for a very long time, I knew that there was one group of people that I was supposed to find, and that group of people was, that specific group of people were very important for our world, I'll put it that way. And it wasn't until 2003 that I did a trip to the Southwest, which is, Arizona, Colorado, Utah. And when I was driving through Hopi land, which is an indigenous group of people, when I was driving through their land, I had a very powerful psychic experience. And I understood in that moment that these were the people that these beings had told me to find. And there they were. So I left, I went back to my home in Canada. I didn't do anything. What could I do then? I was just a wreck, right? I was just a crying wreck going, "Oh my god, what's this now? I don't it was just overwhelming even in 2003, which wasn't that long ago. And what I did was I went onto the computer because, computers were still fairly new back then, people. And, I know, it's amazing, right? So I was looking at Hopi, and I did a bit of research, and it was in that moment that I found some of the prophecies that they have online that were I'll never forget it. As I mean, as long as I live, I'll never forget it, because I was sitting at that table, my little table with my computer, and I was reading these prophecies that were on the laptop, about, literally about, the first, second, third, and fourth world of that the Hopi talked about. And then they also, the Hopi have something with the blue star. And the prophecy from me that was given to me by these beings back in '88 was, one day a star will appear in the sky for all of man to see. Nothing or no one will be able to hide its presence from the world. It will be a sign to the people that the end is near and it is time to prepare. So there I was, holding this necklace, okay, which is a blue star. And in this was 2003, and this was given to me many, many years ago. I was, through telepathy, instructed to I was walking down the street, I heard these beings come into my mind. They said, "We are here." And I was like, "Okay," kind of. They said something to get my attention. I can't really remember now, but
Yeah.
it's like, "Hey, we're here." And they said, "Walk, walk, 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 turn right and go in, open the door, go in." And I was like, "What am I doing?" And I just walked in, they said, "Walk, walk, 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 stop, turn, look down by the object that you see." And it was this blue star. Then they said to me, "One day that you will understand that the blue star is important for every human being alive, and the meaning of it." And so I was like, "Okay, what is this?" Right? So again, they give me information, then they still instruct me. They gave me more information. I end up going online that day, and I found a prophecy of the Hopi called the Blue Star Prophecy. And so people can go and look that up. And there I am sitting there with this blue star that they told me connected to every single thing in life. So when I am asked, what does this mean? It is it's pretty much impossible for me to give that answer, other than to say that those physics that I talked to the audience and yourselves about at the beginning, about how everything is the physics, the science, let's call it, and how it all fits together, that's about the blue star. And it's about the progression of life and the evolution of life, and how we are evolving from where we've been to where we're going, and the choices that we're making in between. And that's the blue star. That's what they told me. So I have had a very I've been blessed to have a relationship with, some of the Hopi people, and I honor them immensely. They are the most extraordinary people I have ever met in all of my journeys around the world. They are the most extraordinary, and the world needs them. We need them. We need them because they are some of the true caretakers of this
Mm.
earth. And I have to say this as well. It is extraordinarily, breathtakingly sad that certain individuals have gone into the public with misinformation and disinformation to try and state that the Hopi Blue Star prophecy is not real. And some of those people were indigenous people. And some of those people claimed to be contactees. And some of those people were very, very well known. And yet, what that's done and what that had the potential to do is to threaten or harm some of the most important information and energy in the world that holds us together. And so I don't I don't normally talk about the Hopi people in I don't get into the details of my relationship with them, because these are still people and they're very private. They are one of the most written about, talked about, studied people, and also the most secretive on the planet itself. They're one of a handful of very, very secretive people, and they've had to do that, and they've chosen to do that because they've dedicated their lives to be in service to our Earth. They've dedicated their lives to be in service to humanity, to the life here on this planet, and to every other dimensional realm that exists. And so when people come out with misinformation about them, they're actually trying to harm that balance of all life. And so when people ask me, what is your purpose, Miriam? What are you doing? First and foremost, I had extraterrestrial contact with beings that we do not normally see in this life on this planet. They gave me extraordinary information. They connected all of the dots for me in terms of who we are, where we're from, where we are now, potentially where we're going, how we can get there, how to resolve some of our issues that we have on the earth. And I work every day to do my part in unfolding that because I believe in the balance of life. So the Hopi people are extremely important, as are many other indigenous groups. But another part of this really important clarity that's needed is that just because someone is indigenous, and I say that, please forgive me, sorry, but if just because they're indigenous or a traditional person does not mean that they are the knowledge keepers. Those are specific people, they're specific clans, groups, places in the world. So we have to use caution when we hear indigenous person or a traditional person when they're talking about things that are very, very, very high level and ask who are they, where are they from, or really what is their position. And I think that we need to apply that questioning to everyone in life that we are listening to, so that, like myself, when I first had this extraordinary experience, that I'm actually trying to say, listen, what is this? Let's take
Mhm.
a look at this a little more closely before I jump to a conclusion about what someone's saying or even what I'm saying. And I've said that from the very first day I ever came into the public. Do not follow blindly, question everything, and things are not as they appear to be. And that means question everything with me. That's why when people say, I don't believe you, I'm like, great. Okay.
Well, thank you again, Miriam, for sharing the information. So a little bit ago, we were kind of talking about your experience with the beans, and it kind of fundamentally shifted things for you, and set you on this path and changed your life. Do you feel like, I know we're all experiencers where we've had an encounter and it fundamentally changed us on not, and everything, like you said, everything is all connected. It's not just like one area. It's going to be, everything's connected all across the board. Do you feel like the contactee experience is a seed for us to broaden our understanding how everything's intrinsically connected, how important it is for us to be takers and stuff? Do you feel like that is the main message of these different experiences, or do you feel like there's maybe other agendas or other, groups of non-human intelligence that are working? Your thoughts on that?
That's a big question. Thank you.
Always go with the big questions.
That's a very big question because since, you know, 1988, what I understood is this, because of understanding that the way that energy works, the way it flows through you, right? When I walk down the street, for example, if I am thinking out energy flowing through me, all right, and I'm just thinking that, and I'm thinking energy's flowing through me and it's flowing through me and I'm sharing it, you're actually doing that. That is part of what happens, right? So the more consciously aware and awake someone is, the more energy from very specific places within the universe, within the dimensional worlds, can move through our physical bodies, our mental bodies, and then throughout into the ethers that surrounds us.
Yes.
And what happens is it's like like releasing droplets everywhere we walk. And eventually what happens is, for example, in a room full of contactees, there's one person who doesn't have any didn't have any contact. Let's just say that. And say there's 30 contactees in the room. What will happen is, because of the collective energy of those contactees, and they're releasing all of these droplets of energy, it's going to enter into that other human being, and it's going to activate.
Hmm.
It's an activator, and activation is what happens with people to awaken spiritually and also awaken physically, in terms of being able to see more clearly what's happening in our world and make better judgments, right? So there is a great deal of understanding of the physics of how that actually works and how all of that connects together. So, in everything that I've seen since 1988, is that there has been this ripple effect of the collective consciousness being affected by every individual who is awake, awake spiritually, and awake enough to understand their role in facilitating consciousness, and the goal of awakening consciousness. It's not enough just to want consciousness or to want to share consciousness. It must be a spiritual connection that's made, and then you can share that consciousness with other people. If, for example, with myself, um, it something happens when I am physically in the presence of people at times, not every time, but at times, where I'll be sharing information, and all of a sudden energy just it comes through and everyone can feel it. And it is powerful. And I know it. I know that it is. For me, I don't hold on to it. I don't even really think about it, to be honest. Because if I do, if I start to try to think about what's happening, I I mean, what am I gonna do, right? It's part of my life. I understand it. I appreciate it. I honor it. I honor it. But I don't uh I recognize the strength of it and the impact that it can have.
Mm.
So there is a lot of energy that's being exchanged and moved and uplifted by a lot of the people who are on the planet today who have had these experiences. The three of you are prime examples of that. So, what happens is that there's this energy exchange, and I believe that from my observation from myself, and then my observation of other contactees and things, that there is this massive energy that flows through them that is actually having an impact on the planet, through the activation of other people. And this does not require words. It does not even require words. It requires the conscious and unconscious awareness of it, right? So there's that happening. Now, part of your question, Daniel, was, are there specific groups that have different agendas,
Mhm.
right? So let's break this down a little bit, because this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Because let me ask you this: what do we have on the planet? We have human beings. We have human beings everywhere. They come in different colors. We come in different shapes and sizes, from different cultures, different backgrounds. If we determine, okay, that one group is bad, what have we done? That's ridiculous. That's not the way humans work. It's not the way anything in nature works. And there's consciousness and awareness, there's a flow to it. And that means that there's going to be breaks, you know, there's a pack of wolves, and the wolves are wolves. That's who they are. But every once in a while, one might be born that has a brain, and there's something wrong with their brain, and so they don't function properly. So maybe they're really aggressive, and the rest of the wolves take them out because they're really bad for some reason, or they die because they can't take care of themselves, right? So you cannot say this group is good, this group is bad, this over here. And that question in itself has also caused a great deal of confusion in the UFO, online truther movement, because I believe that there's a lot of misinformation that goes out regarding that. And so there are, I believe, like for myself, the beings that I have contact with that I call the great ancestors, I know for a fact that not many people have contact with them.
Mm.
I know that. I know that they are highly spiritual race. But just because I saw one, would I automatically trust them? Do you have an automatic trust of any single human being that you ever come across with in the entire planet? Heck no.
Right.
You have to question what I said in the beginning. Question everything. Find the truth.
Right.
So there's been a lot of quote association. This group is bad. That group is bad. And then there's a lot of association of, even with me, people trying to put me into a group. Oh, come on. I get emails all the time, like all the time. Miriam, I'm going to tell you who you have contact with. Oh, really? Okay. They're the Pleiadians. They're the Arcturians. They're the this. They're the that. And I'm like, okay, why? How do you know that? Did you meet them? Did you talk to the ones that I talked with?
Do they have a picture of you on the wall in a frame, and you're like, "Oh, wow, that's Miriam Delicado. How do thank you." I mean, you guys know her personally? Yeah, we hang out sometimes. Well, dang, I better type this email. Say, "Hey, Miriam, I met the tall blondes. They have a picture of
Exactly, but I appreciate that people do that. They're trying to help,
you." Yeah,
be
sure.
helpful, and I appreciate that. But the worst part of that storyline, Daniel, is this. I come out and I say it, or I have not. I need to make that super clear. I'm not saying this, but let's say a person comes out and says, "I met these beings that I believe are Pleiadian." They've been sort of associated, they're kind of in different groups that people have given names to. So they say, "Oh, they're Pleiadian." And then another contactee comes out and starts sharing information online about who the Pleiadians are, where they're from, what their agenda is. Every 5 minutes, they've got a message from the Pleiadians for Earth. They just go out and they do this. Then all of a sudden, this person and this person become identical. Like everything that, oh, this is who they are, this is their message and what their agenda is. Excuse me? My agenda is not the same as the person that's sitting next to me. So why is it that in this community, the insanity part that I've always seen is that all these automatic associations, which are not rational. That's not rational thinking. That is not rational thinking. We have to look at, rather than trying to make these connections that way, we have to start making the connections with what was the effect on the people. How did this affect me? How did this affect a contactee, an abductee? And that is the real power and question. That is what is important. It is not about, oh, you saw Pleiadians and you saw this. It makes me crazy because I don't want to have any part of that. I don't want to have any part of that kind of discussion, because to me, some of it is crazy making. And here's the thing, there were people, and I will not name them because I just don't want to get into the argument. But I will tell you that there were people in the public who kind of came out of nowhere, made a huge name for themselves, and they started talking about this uniquely different quote group of extraterrestrials So for a couple of years, I had to deal with that. It's like, okay, not even, I don't even respond. I don't even respond. And I knew the whole time that it was made up. And it turned out that it was because the person ended up having to go to court and say, yeah, I made it all up. Okay. Then another individual that I think of did something similar where they came out, they started talking, about all of these experiences and things. And again, it came out that they were making it up. And then what's the end result of that is that people like myself who have had, and like yourselves, who have had profound, life changing credible experiences, and we are all on the path together to seek knowledge and to seek understanding of what actually happened regardless of how much information we have. We are still trying to figure it out. We are figuring it out. And what makes us when I talk with someone, they said, oh, I've had contact, I'll listen to them. I can tell if they've actually had contact. Can the three of you tell if somebody's
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
right?
It's weird too. Like I just feel it with some people. With you, I was just like, I have to talk to her, and I reached out, and I'm so glad you responded back. But that does make sense. It's like a weird. I don't know. I feel
It's
it.
an extra sense. You can sense the contact. I feel like it's hard to explain.
Mhm,
There's elements that are kind of subconscious, so you just can't put words to. Um, but yeah, I think we've all had that experience in different ways. There's a underlying understanding that that other person has had that experience, or you have been fundamentally changed. It's yeah.
And
oh
they
yeah.
know it's also informational too, because there is this consistency with certain pieces of information that come through that stick out to me personally. And I don't know about you guys, and I'm like, I know they know something, that kind of thing too.
Mhm.
For me, it's I know that I've experienced, I know Daniel's experienced, I know Christian has experienced, I believe you've experienced. You feel it.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
a feeling. It's in here. Your soul knows it. It's external, internal at the same time. So when someone is trying to talk about their experience, the first thing I look at is, are they feeling it? Are they putting inflection and emotion into it? Or is it just reading off of a script? Or is it just trying to continue to build upon the experiences just being, and usually it's way fantastical. Now I'm not here going to say that fantastic things don't happen with the phenomena all the time, and you don't know what to expect all
Mhm.
the time. And I found that with myself, the more I think I know, the less I know all the time. But it's that feeling, right? You feel it. And if someone has truly been touched by the phenomena, they will exude that feeling and they'll be able to pick up on that. Like before, with the energy that's coming down and it flows through you and outward in a positive way. And, or, some people have negative experiences, but they feel it. They most definitely feel it. So positive things can come out of that. Just openly admitting that, hey, something really happened to me that's negative is a part of a healing process that can lead to a learning experience that can be a positive outcome and result. And I don't want to ignore side of the aspect either. But I mean, definitely there are definitely people out there that will make up fantastical stories for the exact reasons opposite to why we're doing this. And
Absolutely.
that is for fame, money, power, and disinformation and misinformation. And it's
Yes.
rampant. And what that's put out there for is not to just convince people that it's all woo or that it's all make believe, but to put the actual experiencer in that same corner of woo and not believable. And that's why there's a difference between like being skeptical and being a debunker, right? Is because we have this experience. What's the first natural thing? Did that happen to me? Let me go ahead and research it, like I mentioned before,
Hmm.
right? Instead of just going, no, it didn't happen, and just pushing it away because of fear or whatever else. But it's all put there as control mechanisms, for ourselves individually and as a culture, society, race to keep us down. And one of those attacks is on our consciousness. There is an active, and I'm sorry, I'm don't mean to be on a soapbox here, but I've felt it for many years. Proof do I need? Again, you feel it. There's an active movement to control and make sure that we are not one unified consciousness as far as a species on this planet. That's the last thing that the ones that are in power, whether they be extraterrestrial, human, or both, want us to have.
Mhm.
And they've ingrained themselves into the science field. I have a lot of respect for the science field where it comes to like physical crafts. Oh, what does it do? The propulsion of the crafts and all this stuff. But it's been ingrained in that too as a stopgap to make sure that the spirituality is shunned from all of the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. Because why? Consciousness. So when you get people like yourself, you get people like Grant Cameron, you get others that come out and they say, look, consciousness is really the key. It's the key to everything. We are, we are the technology. Okay. We're what makes it tick, the soul, right? And the rest of the stuff, the nuts and bolts, the iPads, the phones, and all that other stuff is an extension of ourselves as creators, right? Universe creates us, we create through the universe, et cetera, et cetera. But it all comes from consciousness. So you have some like scientists that are now coming out and saying, you know what? Look at that dark energy web out there. It's kind of like the human brain. Is the universe conscious? Which is a great question to ask in the science community. Well, what happens? Oh yeah, it's a hogwash. That's a bunk paper. They throw that out of the way. Why? Consciousness. Don't want us to be unified in our consciousness. And so you get the indigenous people that are deeply and spiritually involved, and their consciousness compared to, I would have to say, I don't know the exact number, like 75% of the rest of the population in the world is up here while everybody else is down here wondering about what happened in recent news events. Okay, just say it like that. No, we need to be up here like the Hopi people are, like other indigenous groups are. And so, Miriam, I know that when you've done your research and you've spent time with indigenous people, that you might be like me, to where every time you hear primitive and savage, it just kind of like it's a screw in my side because I'm like, no, actually, if you really think about it, as far as spiritually speaking, I'm not talking religion, spiritually speaking, we're the primitive ones,
Mhm.
they're the more advanced ones because you don't get any spirituality out of a cell phone. Even if you're looking up a website about spirituality, you're not going to get anything from it, right? So we need to go back to our base. And so my question is this, okay? I want to go back to the Hopi, and thanks for dealing with my little rant there. The Hopi culture's prophecy of the blue star Kachina, which they say will appear as the blue star, and it's equated to Sirius, that will dance in the plaza and remove its mask, ending the fourth and current world, correlate with the messages that you may have received from the tall blondes. They also pass on information about the upcoming fifth world to you. Now, I know that they Hopi speak of there's 9 different realms or universes and dimensions.
I'm gonna stop you. I'm
Yes,
gonna
ma'am.
stop you.
Stop me.
I wanna go back to how do you know I'm gonna start here. How do you know that someone when someone says that they've had contact has, the truth?
Mm,
Now, Jonathan, love you, but before you started going on to the rant, okay,
mhm.
I'm making a point of this.
I'm fa
Before you started doing that, what each one of all 3 of you said is precisely correct. So, I don't know what timestamp that was. Someone wants to know if someone's telling the truth or not, they should go back and they should listen to that because it is exactly that. And here's the thing, you said the inflection, how it feels, how it makes you feel. It's some kind of a connection. You just know. Those are very simple terms, but it really doesn't describe the truth and the reality of it, which is so much deeper. I mean, I've had people try to sit there for an hour talking to me about their experiences, and I'm like, "Mhm, yeah, okay." So, the other thing is, like, someone else out there very, very big in the community, and they talked about having contact or knowing about a particular, quote, "group of extraterrestrials" and how they were evil and this is who they were. Well, you know, I'm sorry, but I just didn't believe it, and I still don't, and that's my prerogative, and it's okay to do that. So I wanted to say that before I got into the next part. First of all, I don't research tribes. I don't research anyone that I go and visit normally, okay? Especially traditional people. I do not research them, and especially the Hopi. I never looked them up. I don't go online and read their books and talk about I've never done any of that. I need to be very clear about this because it's a really important point for me. Found the information and then I started a relationship with the people there, and that's what I've done. I haven't read books and massive amounts of information that's online. In terms of their prophecies, people get very upset with me when I tell them that I don't have any information to share with you about their prophecies because I am not a Hopi. It's not mine. I am not the one that created or holds those prophecies. And it would be wrong of me to try to share something that these people have as part of their sacred world willy nilly. That would be incorrect. The other part of this is that there are prophecies from different peoples and groups all over the world that are they're given these warnings about the potential future, and they were given them so that they could protect life. So they know how everything works and when and if it's the right time to say anything or do anything. Okay. So it really needs to be understood that prophecies of indigenous people or ancient people, individuals themselves, are not set in stone. They are storylines, let's call them timelines. They are potential events. And just like when I would get visions, for example, I had a vision of someone having a car accident and they were coming down a mountain with a group of friends and they had a massive car accident. He was thrown out of the car and became a quadriplegic. And I had this vision, and I went to this man and I said, "Are you going anywhere?" He's like, "No." I said, "Okay, great. Super." But then 3 days later, he said, "Oh, I'm gonna go skiing." And I said, "No, you can't." Told him what I saw and what had happened, and, to me, and he said, "Well, should I not go?" And I said, "Listen, you can go, but you need to do this." And I gave him instructions. I said, "At some point in your day, you have to have it so that you're not thinking about this. And then it'll pop into your mind. And at that moment, I want you to stand there and not move for 3 minutes. Okay?" And he's like, "Why?" And I said, "Just do it."
Stay tuned for part 2 next week.